Hello, people. Welcome back to my diary. This is Toy Thursday for April 23rd, 2020, week number 6 of the coronavirus quarantine, staying at home, all that good stuff. And I am Johnny Tiger. And before you, on this display, is my little collection of very, 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 very old action figure line. These guys here are from the movie Warriors of Virtue. Now, if you are curious, if you've never seen it, as I imagine a lot of you might not have, because it really wasn't that good as the movies went, and some of you watching this channel, I imagine, were not even born when this toy line and this movie were out. I will be including a link to the Warriors of Virtue in the description of this video, so those who are curious can go take a look. Now on the right side, you see, at least I hope you can see, like I said, when I have to position uh, items for camera, doing the blind is not always the easiest thing. I don't really know if you can see them, but I'm just going to assume that you can. And if you can't, then please let me know and I can redo the video. So on the right side, you see a Chinese assassin, Barbarocious, one of the villain or villainess in the movie. She didn't really have much to do other than just being the second in command of the big bad, and generally just see her kill a few people and then she got killed herself. On the left side, you see one of the Warriors of Virtue. The Warriors of Virtue was a very simple movie concept. It was your classic good versus evil. It took place in the land of Tao, a fictitious fantasy land where animals were uh, warriors and could take on uh, martial artist traits. And the main five heroes were these kangaroo warriors, and they were the warriors of virtue. The one you see on the left hand side is the kangaroo by the name of Chi. Chi was the warrior of fire and wisdom. Now, I've had these figures ever since 1997, and once upon a time, I had all five kangaroos. I had all five warriors of virtue. But then when I went into foster care, and when I left foster care, they actually stole a lot of my action figure. It's a sad tale, best left for another day. But suffice to say, I went into foster care, bringing with me a lot more toys than I left with. Uh, Chi was the only kangaroo that was left from the collection. I will give you guys a better view of this guy. Take him off display and put him center. As you can see, he's actually got a like a flaming sword in his hand, which is kind of strange because in the movie, I believe his weapon was actually a flaming whip rather than a sword. Turning him for a side view. Now for 1997 toy line, and this was made by a toy company that was never heard of called Play M. These were actually quite well done. Nowadays, we are kind of used to companies reusing body parts. Like if companies making Power Rangers, for example, quite often you will have all the Power Rangers just different colors, but basically share the same body, same mold. But these kangaroo, even though the company could have used the same mold and just changed up the color, they didn't. As I remember, the five kangaroo warriors were very distinctly different. Their textures, the wrinkles on their clothes were all very different. So that was a definite interesting point toward this toy company. As you can see on Chi's back, I actually rigged up a little. Let me move his arm out of the way. On his back, there's a scabbard. That did not come with him. That I made myself actually. And uh, in the scabbard is a sword that originally belonged to one of his brethren. Uh, Unfortunately, like I said, uh, when I left foster home, these were a lot of them were stolen, and so I didn't have the other kangaroos left. So all I got was the sword from the other kangaroo. So I decided, well, what to do with it. I might as well just let the only remaining kangaroo carry it on his back as a tribute to his family. uh, it's sad, but things like that happen. Now let me get him on his display. By the way, if you guys can see this display, I made this out of an old PlayStation joystick that was no longer functional, so I converted to a four-figure display. Because they're so rare that we will see movies or action figures and action movies based on Asian characters. There's more of them now, but back then in the 90s, it's actually really rare. So I was a big sucker for female uh, action figures and especially the Asian ones, like Asian action figures, Asian female action figures, Asian warrior action figures. So Barbarocious here, played by an Asian actress in an animated action movie, was my first pick. Actually, when I acquired my Warriors of Virtue, Barbarocious was my first acquisition. Again, this was back in 1997. You can see that on Barbarocious, the sculpting, the shape is very nice for a toy from back then. And these action figures, they were 6 to 7 inches tall, so they were larger than a lot of the action figures produced at the time. Giving you a view of her back, I was told, of course I can't verify this myself, but I was told that her cloak or her cape has a spider web design and it's really exceptionally well done. So I hope that you guys can see that from the back. Now we see a give you a side profile. I'll have to hold on to her a little bit because she's wanting to tip over. Now the cloak part, as you can tell, I can move it. It's like soft rubber. Same with her skirt. Uh, Putting her back on her perch. Now I'm going to turn this around so you can see the other two guys in the back. Now as you can see, now on the right is the heroine of the movie. Elisha or Elisa. I can't remember how they actually said her name in the movie. Uh, she really didn't do a heck of a lot, truth be told. I mean, back then in the 90s, most cartoons, movies, and stuff like that didn't really promote strong, capable women as much as they do today. So her role was more or less like Princess Leia in Star Wars. She was the one that inspired the heroes to fight for her. She was the one that needed rescuing, and she was the one that trying to bring peace to the land. Your very generic heroine. Now to the right side, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, hopefully. On the right side is Alicia. On the left side, beside her there, with the one with the sword, that's the main villain in the movie, and his name is Komodo. Um, Now, I know that a lot of people have reviewed Komodo's action figure and find him not very good, but I have kind of a personal fondness for that character, and I kind of find that this kind of wizard or almost uh, a robed and magician type of character uh, with a sword. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Um, I'm not quite sure if I can get him off the base because I got him pegged on there pretty tight. So I'm not even going to try. So I'm just going to shift this over so he's more to the center so you can get a look of him, at him. Move his arm down. That's Komodo right there. Right there. Uh, yeah, the long hair, the robe, the cloak, the sword. That really does it for me. I like his design. Uh, and now I'll shift it over so you guys get to see Alicia or Elisa. I'm not quite sure how to say her name. Very interesting outfit there. Like a half shoulder skirt, and she also got a cloak. Let me turn it to the side. Yeah. As you can see, comparing to today's design, today's standard, these figures are not really all that exciting. But back then in the mid to late 90s, these were pretty awesome. Articulation wise, they don't have much. Uh, Pretty much all of them only move at the head, shoulder, and hip, with the kangaroo also having the tail articulation. And in many figures, like the case of Lisa and the case of Barbarocious, the hair very long, and the hair is basically negating the neck articulation, making them unable to turn their head in any direction. Uh, so articulation-wise, they really weren't that great. So why did I choose to showcase these old action figures that really, by all standards and all reviewers' opinions, really not that good? I guess because they were a piece of my childhood. That of course I have tons of better action figures in my collection today, but these are genuine part of my history. These four warriors of virtue, they are from a time of uncertainty, a time of family turmoil, and a lot of bad memories came with them, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, but there were also a lot of sweetness and uh, good memory because they came from a time before descriptive elements in movies. Now, those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, nowadays a lot of movies have a soundtrack, audio track built into them. So someone is in the back describing what the characters are doing. So those of us who are blind, we can sort of follow what the movie is doing. Now back then, in the mid 90s, maybe descriptive movies already existed, but at least to me, they were unheard of. So how did I watch movies back then? That wasn't there wasn't Google, and the internet wasn't quite as popular and available. So I couldn't really go online and just research a movie and read the synopsis before before watching the movie. Well, my younger brother Peter, he was like my best friend when we were teenagers. And Peter and I watched a lot of movies together, and he was my narrator. Peter was always tirelessly describing things in the movie in down to the most minute details. Quite often, when we were watching movies such as The Warriors of Virtue, because there's a lot of actions and there's a lot of the movie didn't really have much of a plot. It was one of those action movies that more for eye candy than anything. So if I didn't have someone describing it to me, I wouldn't be able to get any enjoyment out of it. But my younger brother Peter, he was there, tirelessly pausing the videotape and telling me, "Oh my God, the bad guy, he looks so cool. He like the sword he's using is so cool, and the kangaroo they just did this. They just jump off the bridge, and the one that using the fire, it just did a backflip, and the bad guy, he's the second in command that Barbarossa's. She's really uh, cool looking, and yeah, we totally need to get that action figure, so you know what she look like or feel like or what. So I can even say that my younger brother gave me more joy from these movies than the descriptive elements that we get today. Because when we are watching a described movie, very often we get something very generic. The bad guy charges toward Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee dispatches them. And that's it. Well, that's not the point of watching a Bruce Lee movie. When I watch a Bruce Lee movie, I need to know what he did, how he moved, and what weapon he might have used, and what he did with his hand. How did he dispatch them? Did he kick them or punch them? A lot of time we don't get any of that detail in the descriptive movies. But when I watched them with my younger brother Peter, I got all of that and more. It's really sad that Peter and I we fallen off out of contact with each other as we grew up. He had his family, I had my career, and so on and so on. But feeling these toys, these action figures, bring me back memory of a simpler time where he was my eyes and I was his protector. He helped me understand the world around me. I made sure that he didn't get bullied in school. So that, my friend, is our Toy Thursday. If you are bored now, then I'm sorry. But I figured that these are interesting to me and they come with a piece of my personal history that I will share with everybody. Come back tomorrow and we will have something more interesting for you to look at. Tomorrow is Fitness Friday. We'll be working out and showing some ways to get you sweating and get your heart rate up at home. Thank you for being here and checking out my video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong.